sitting very still, just observing what is continuing to move in the room you're in terms of sound, sights, smell, taste, touch, any kind of fluctuation or movement in any of the sense fields, including the mind. Just observe, make no comment. Just observe. Just observe. Good evening, everyone. Those of you in the Zendo, please gather in front of the altar. Those of you on Zoom, please turn toward your computer screen, and thank you. So thank you for coming. Thank you for participating in this community and attending these talks. These happen every Wednesday, another talk on Sunday. And then there's all the various book studies, as many of you know. I highly encourage you to study, to come and study with Sangha. Studying on your own is fine. I know I did it for many years. Very important to study with others. And as I've said other times, and I'll say it again, if you have questions about this, you should ask me about it. But maybe I can respond in such a way that might clear a few things up for you, maybe clear up many things. You do not have to understand this material. You have to study it. Some people are going to read it and feel like they understand it better than anyone else. This is not a mistake. Probably do. But you need to study it. If you're not studying it, then and you consider yourself a student of the Buddha's Dharma, my understanding, having done this for a while, is that you're missing the point. It's a spiritual path, my friends. It's not a mundane path of getting somewhere. I'm running out of steam here, even though I have a great steam engine. It's a spiritual path. It's much different than doing this and this and this and getting that. You will not get anything. This is why Trungpa Rinpoche had a book that published in 1972 called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, using spiritual techniques to get somewhere, accomplish, be more serene, more peaceful, more. This is a misunderstanding. If you disagree, that's not a problem. Go ahead and disagree. I'm not here to convince you. I can't convince you. I'm not interested in working with your preconceptions in that way. What I am interested in doing is getting you to see clearly what this is yourself. And that's why the title of this evening's talk is No Wrong Place. Did I get it right? Where is she? Did I get it right? That's what I told her the talk was. I'm just checking to make sure it hasn't changed in the last 15 minutes. No wrong place. I could take that further and say there's nothing to correct, but this is the teaching of the great perfection out of the Dzogchen tradition, out of the teachings of Longchenpa and other great masters. There's nothing to fix, but it's going to look like that as long as you're practicing meditation practice, studying the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, and working with the Sangha. Those three jewels, as long as you're doing that, it's going to feel like something's amiss. Something's not right. You're not quite getting it. And it will never feel like nothing is amiss. We're right back to relative truth. It's a deeper, more vast, more profound understanding than that, which leaves no nourishment for self-centeredness. Ego will starve to death in the desert of enlightenment. Good luck. You're going to need it because it's going to get harder. Even on the spiritual path, it might need to get harder. You might need to uncover your 15th century lifetime you've managed to cover up for the last 5 centuries, lifetime after lifetime. If you're on this path and if you're listening to me, you're ready to look at this. Whether you will or not, I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm getting meaner and crankier. Why? I want you to see what this is. I want you to see this if you can. I can't show it to you. I can't tell it to you. I can point at it. I can use concepts, but I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the same, as I've said this before, and this might be irritating to you to hear me show off and be so full of myself, but I am looking at this. You are looking at this. I know what it is. You don't. If you did, you certainly wouldn't be here listening to me. My words would be useless to you because you would see it yourself. You wouldn't need an other. Why? Because you would realize there is no other. There's no one else. You're it. And the itness is ego and tends to create other to support itself, to keep that conditional reality going of me and my success, me and my failure, me and all my ideas, right and wrong, right and wrong, wrong. Go ahead. Catastrophize the whole situation about your life with all of your stories about it. Go ahead. It's just that it's circular. Circular. The only way you'll start to see the circles if you hold still and watch them go around. If I sit in front of you, you sit in front of me, and I watch you go in circles, and I don't have permission, and I'm not saying you didn't say, yeah, I'm your student. Yeah, come on, Sokuzan, come and get me. I'm all yours. I'm totally, teach me. But what appears to me is not what you think you're presenting. What appears to me is this or this. Yeah, go ahead and teach me. Help me, Sokuzan. The only thing I can think of is that, and this is a fancy word, but it's a dumbbell. Don't be a dumbbell. Sit down, get to know yourself. Sit down, hold still, look at the wall, and where nothing is happening, sit in a room that's fairly silent, or at least not too noisy. Hold still and watch the continued movement of the mind so that the awareness within which, you could say it this way, the thoughts, emotions, ideas, and so on are arising is not doing anything. It's not grasping, rejecting, or shutting down. And the so-called identity changes its allegiance over from the passion, aggression, ignorance over to just the space itself. It's like suddenly you become the sky instead of a bunch of crazy clouds. The clouds are still there. They're still banging heads, running around, getting dark, getting large, getting stretched out, getting puffed up. But who you are has no location. There's no wrong place. There's just this always. And there are no other places. It's empty of other. Not something I invented last week. Hard to do this. Very, very challenging because the ego mind, the self-centered mind, the thinking, processing, evaluating, concluding, and judging mind wants results. Spiritual materialism, as Trungpa Rinpoche so kindly pointed out to all of us. There will be no result. I'm not saying there aren't teachers out there, stages on the path. You can study the 10 bodhisattva bhumis or grounds and try to make sense of those and tie them into the paramitas. And some people, their thinking process needs that kind of going into this kind of that kind of discursiveness back and forth so that kind of polishes that whole area of the mind that slowly creates and establishes, builds, constructs, reifies, and puts shingles on a self to protect it from what? The weather of what? Dependent origination that looks like a bunch of separate things could be stopped, or a bunch of separate things could be redefined or reevaluated or protected from. You can see this. You can see this with your own consciousness, and it won't be an occurrence. If it's an occurrence, there's an occurrence. Gone. If it's something that shows up as an aha, going away. It cannot last. Anything that shows up relatively will go away. Awakening does not show up. If you wanted to talk about it relatively, which I've done quite often, it's not that, but it's like you just stop covering it. You just stop covering it. It's like a jewel in the mud. It's a jewel in the palm of your hand. It's an astonishing realization, and it has no qualities to it, though sometimes it is described as having qualities. It isn't anything. I can continue or I can respond to questions. Yes, sir.
So going, can we stop covering up our true nature today, but have to keep watching how there's a lot of momentum of it already being covered up for years and years?
I think it happens. There's no way to describe the particular way that each person is going to work with that. The way you're asking the question. Yes. It looks like you're uncovering something, but it's still a relative situation. That's why that's a way of describing it, but fundamentally nothing happens. It's more like things just stop happening. Nothing happens. That doesn't mean that things aren't happening, but you actually see that everything that shows up as an occurrence is an illusion. It's unreal. This does not happen. This is part of dependent origination, an aspect of that cause that cause that cause that karma. Very hard to track that down and squeeze any kind of results out of it, especially happiness. More.
Being knowing, how can we be students of something you're calling an illusion?
That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
What you are doing is you are a student of your own consciousness. You need the teacher to turn you toward the consciousness, so you will receive it. Whatever shows up in the consciousness has a right to be there because it's dependently arisen and it's unreal. So the way you are students of that, you first have to find another human being that you can either trust or give the benefit of the doubt to. So that's what I ran into when I met Trungpa. And then when I met Kobun, I could not continue to do that. So I fought him in my mind for years. Although he had a message for me, which he endeavored to show me when I met him. Couldn't see it. I could not receive it. I just ended up with a lot of thoughts about it. So you don't have to talk to me anymore. If you want to leave this teacher, then listen to what I'm saying. Just observe. Just anything that shows up in your life, receive it. Make no comment. And the process of the path is watching how much we knee-jerk or jump at things or jump away from things or shut things down. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Watch that come and go without fixing it, without changing it, without doing anything with it. No location. No occurrence. If you see it, it's liberation. If you just see it, it's like it's so flat out ordinary that it can be missed. You actually, every one of you are going in and out of this all the time. But if you see it and it does tickle you in the belly a little bit like that, you'll grasp at it because you still think of yourself as someone who's realizing something. So it's not that you don't have insight into it, but then you want it rather than you realize you're not separate from it, never have been. You're not separate from anything that has ever occurred or not occurred. All the illusions, all the crime and punishment, everything. You're responsible for everything. More.
Beyond bowing, you say the teacher turns us towards consciousness.
Yes. Or tries to. The teacher would, a Buddhist teacher, a Buddhist student of the Buddhist Dharma who's become a teacher, you could say. Go ahead.
Beyond bowing, well, there's two things. How do we turn away from consciousness? Can we really turn away from consciousness?
What we turn away from is the fundamental nature of this, of what this is, and grasp at things that arise in consciousness. The temporary shape of consciousness, which is a thought, an emotion, a memory, a judgment, an evaluation, a conclusion. We use that to reestablish the conclusion is there, and I'm the one who's concluding. So that's the dynamic in consciousness that creates the illusion of separation or duality or subject object. And it's about seeing that. It's not about stopping karma, which quite often this is what we We have a really negative feeling and we just don't want to feel that way. So we try to find ways to not get mad. Big misunderstanding. And this is why I say, be the shit that's happening to you. Just be that. I mean, give it 20 seconds anyway, where you're just looking at the intense, distasteful, smelly discursiveness that's trying to show up in your life. Instead of shutting it down, trying to be a special person that doesn't have any negative feelings. Or if you do have negative feelings and that's not working, then you try to find out who's causing the negative feelings. You actually buy into the illusion of relative truth. And there is no cause and effect. Pratītya Samutpada solves that. You understand what it is, but you have to know, you have to see what it is. This is an illusion. It doesn't mean it's not there, it just means that it's unreal. And what is real? Find out. You can do that. You can actually, everyone here, anyone that's listening to me, and people who aren't listening to me, it's possible to actually be a living being and awaken to your true nature. It's not particularly likely, but it's possible. More?
Bowing, when you say the teacher points us to consciousness, is that pointing away from the teacher when you do that?
There's no way to figure that out. Could be any number of things. I've chased people away. Not that I didn't sit back and think, this person needs that special teaching of get out of my hojo. Or it needs that special teaching as I need to be rude to them. COVID was rude to me, but he didn't decide to do that. He couldn't help it. How do I know that? I don't know. But that's looking at that from how this looks now. It just he couldn't do anything else but meet my confusion and my self-deception right where it was at. And how did that feel to me as an ego? Like I was having my nose rubbed in something that smelled and tasted very bad, called self-deception. He showed me that. More?
What is missing the point if there's no wrong place?
Thinking there's a wrong place, thinking there's a right place. Any kind of conclusion at all, based on relative truth, is relatively right or wrong, but the fundamental understanding, that's when the consciousness actually lifts off and doesn't leave anything behind, but you could say it is no longer attached or by the illusion. Oh, it's sitting right in the middle of it, it's like a Jello with banana sliced in it. I'm sure that makes sense to you. That does to me. You know, like that. Is that a skull? A little skull. So it's just like you realize something at the same time you're in the illusion, you realize it's an illusion, and because it's consciousness, it's like everything just vanishes. Everything is just a reality. Everything just goes away, and then it comes back. It comes back, but it's ordinary. It's just dead fish, or birds in the sky, or the sound of bat wings. You know, bat wings don't make a sound. You ever met a noisy bat? Well, I have. Yes. More? You can get closer to that question if you reflect on it for a moment.
Jesus, I'm wondering what you're pointing at by coming after us about study and missing the point. If there isn't a wrong place, what are you showing us?
I'm showing you that the right and wrong dynamic that is based on relative truth and can be proven and be taken to court, it works fine in society and culture. Of course it does. If you judge me through society and culture and all those rules and laws, you won't even be here. You just won't. If you judge me by anything, you won't be here. It may be some kind of perception, you're not sure exactly what it is, but it might show up, but you don't really know why the hell you're here. It's more like that. It doesn't make any sense to be here from the point of view of relative truth or ego or even culture. This looks like a waste of time. Sit down, hold still, look at a wall for hours and hours and hours, and the person sitting in front. In this situation, it's me saying, do more of that. Sit still more, watch the movement, watch the movement. Because I see what this is when I say it's not a bragging point, I'm not getting a credential. The crown doesn't appear on my head. It doesn't guarantee me of some kind of existence in a Buddha field or some kind of even a better future life. My lifetime from the 9th century might come and just drag me right down into hell as soon as I die. And I'm ready for that. I don't care what happens. Why? There isn't one. Isn't one what? Isn't one what? Well, there isn't any one, and there isn't any happening. You have to see it. If you don't see it, you'll continue to believe in this. And when the body goes, the consciousness will be wrapped up in whatever you believe. Liberate yourself. Liberate yourself from this. I'm sorry. Otherwise, it's the realms or something along that line, or maybe something that the teachings have not really understood about the nature of the 6 realms or the nature of realm of form, the formless realm and the realm of desire. I don't know. That's pretty strong statements right there, just by somebody who seems to see how this works. Are they liberated? I don't know. Am I liberated? I don't know. I don't have any standard anymore. I don't know. All I know is that I'm teaching out of what I'm looking at. I've been telling you that since you met me. I don't believe in anything. Don't disbelieve in anything. Don't turn away from anything if I can help it. But if I can't help it, then I turn away and run, just like anybody does. Come this way if you have it. Yes, sir.
What's the poking you're doing if it's not right and wrong?
Let's see. Bad and good, bad and wrong. Enlightened, unenlightened. Have to do something. If you see it, then all we have is the illusion. I'm waving something around in the illusion and saying, this is an illusion. But as far as right or wrong, that's your issue. That's the thing, not just you, but anybody. My issue, anybody's issue is to grasp it, something is correct, and shove something away that is incorrect. It's relative truth. And you're involved in it. Your whole career situation is based on off and on switches, if I may say it that way. As a programmer, would you say? Or am I misunderstanding what it is you're so adept at? You really don't know? You couldn't comment on what I just said? Then how can you ask the question that you asked if you can't comment on what I just said? Because I can comment on it. You want to hear me? You're wrong. What am I saying when I say that? Can anyone tune into that a little bit? Yes.
In your bowing, are you saying that we need to continue to look at it and not come to conclusions?
Yes,
Or
you
be
won't.
aware of the conclusions?
Yes, it's like saying I'm looking at something, you're looking at something. I see what it is, and therefore I can talk like this, I can teach. But you see, not just you, but everyone in here or anyone on the screen is what they're looking at. They have ideas about what that is, even if it's the Buddha's Dharma. And they don't actually see what it is. If you see what it is, you won't see anything. I'm not saying that the illusion won't be there. That's another way of saying it, that you see that it is so unreal that it's like there's nothing there. It's like if you watch a movie and see someone acting or a presentation of something going on there, you realize it's unreal. We know that movies are invented, made up, and we call them what? Entertainment. Interesting area to look into. What entertains us and what frightens us. Yes.
Beyond bowing, when you say, it's not like you won't see what's there, an object. It's like,
It's just like, let me just take off note. It's not that you won't, for a while, initially we see a negative emotion. And then we start to get reactive or blame ourselves or come up with stories about why that's happening in our mind. And then another time, that might come and then we have a few little doubts about it, but then it just overwhelms us. And the next thing we're blaming ourselves, blaming others, telling stories. And then at some point or points, it's not even a point, we begin to see that what we've been thinking is just as what happened to me with COVID. 10 years it took for me to see that he was basically, if you were to put it in words, he was basically saying, you are a fool and you're lying to me. 10 years and 3 months or six months before he died, I realized what he had been pointing at. Because I've been meditating for years and years and years and years and practicing, studying with the Sangha. Can I look and say, well, it's because I studied on this day or that day or that? No, I just studied and studied and studied. Long after my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, was dead, I realized what COVID was pointing at. I asked him for Jukai, and he knew I was lying to him. He knew that I didn't really want Jukai. I wanted to just be somebody who asked for Jukai, because I really kind of already knew what this was. Yeah, well, I didn't know what it was. I had come to a conclusion about it, and it was protecting me from seeing the actual reality of what this is. It is completely devastating to ego. And if you, any of you, if you want to continue to live your life and just believe in your thoughts, your ideas, your opinions, I can't stop you. You can't stop yourself. Nothing can be stopped. There's nothing to correct. There's just something to be seen. You have to see it. And the only way that I know of it, you can see it, is to watch what it is not until you eventually see that what it actually is. This takes a lot of time. More?
Beyond bowing, how are interpretations seen through those things that give those objects its?
Good question. How something happens and you interpret it. Is that what you're saying? Just see the interpretation. Don't stop it. Don't try to be someone who doesn't interpret anything. That's what I was busy doing 30 years ago. Building up stories about who I was and how it would work and how well I understood the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 12 Links, and the Chain of Existence. And I could just rattle on and you'd think I knew a lot of what I can say, but understanding goes way beyond all those concepts. Those concepts are step ladders, and there's structures of scaffolding in consciousness to help you conceptually get closer to the final understanding, which is complete darkness. You can't have light without darkness. You have to go into the darkness. And it's not fun, not comfortable, and it is what? First Noble Truth. Questions are good. Please don't hold back. If you have something, please let's take a look at it. Yes,
Since you bowing, is the illusion our mind? Our minds?
the illusion is what the consciousness does in order to protect that part of the consciousness that seems to be wrapped into a knot of narcissism, me, my stuff. Traditionally in the Yogacara tradition, it's called the seventh. You have the sense of taste, sense of touch, sense of hearing, sense of smell, and so on, right on up to the sixth sense, which is the actual mechanical operation of the thinking process, just as a way of talking about it. And I'm speaking of it very simply. I don't have any profound understanding of any of that. The seventh seemed to be an area of consciousness. We use that concept to try to describe some part of consciousness that is paranoid and thinks it's threatened, that identifying with a body mind, there's something is amiss, we have to protect ourselves. We see it all over our culture. We see not just a simple version that might happen, with our partner or with somebody in the Sangha or even our own mind. You see the extreme version of it where people actually use that to mobilize hundreds of thousands of people to get on board with their insanity in order to control others. So coming back to your question, ask it again.
When you talk about this being an illusion,
Yes.
is it my mind that is the illusion?
Everything is an illusion. There is no singularity that is an object that has any substantiality beyond the fundamental understanding or teaching of pratitya samutpada or dependent origination. Any singularity has the illusion of being that single thing, along with other single things. Did I get close to what you're looking for? Because there's room for more questioning, can take us down into that more deeply if you wish.
Senshi bowing, is there anything other than mind?
Doesn't look like it. It's just consciousness. And then consciousness can show up as the space in which something occurs or the actual thing that's occurring. You can't find it. Otherness starts to just bleed out of everything. The more you look at it, it just becomes more and more vague and more imminent at the same time. And that's any part of consciousness that is still wrapped up in a me feeling. It's freaky. It's like you feel like you're going crazy. And so if you have a teacher, excuse me, that maybe that could be addressed. This doesn't mean that it couldn't happen in your chemical situation, your body, that something was amiss there, and that the teachings are not going to help because you actually do have a chemical imbalance. Of course, everything is possible. Everything is impossible, and everything is extremely confusing. You can't figure it out. Just like if someone suddenly gets Alzheimer's, it's unlikely they're going to attain realization, but they could. Everything is possible, but that is very unlikely because the disturbance is so great. Just like if a person is born with very low intelligence level, or any of the countless things you could talk about in relative areas that take over and actually run things. So this is why I'm saying, and I've been saying it for a while, is help people, help yourself, try to train your mind so you don't impose your unexamined aggression, passion, and ignorance on others. And try to clarify that, make friends with yourself on some level so you don't have to get rid of your negativity, because you realize it's dependent. There's no one there who's negative. But if you think there is, then we go to war with ourselves, with others, and we have conflicts. But you can bring that to a close just by observing it. So mind, that you're asking about, just everything is mind, everything is consciousness only. It's not a conclusion. I'm not here to prove something. I'm not here to say, set up some kind of argument between the Yogacharans and the Madhyamikans or the different kinds of approaches to that. Those are all very, very fascinating. I've studied them. You can get wrapped up in such a way that it actually makes you think that you can figure this out. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I would even say if you find a great master that's teaching something you magnetize, you go study with them. I don't need you. You don't need me. If you need me, I'm here. If what I'm saying doesn't make any sense or is confusing to you, please go somewhere else. You won't find too many teachers say that, but I'm saying it. And why? Because I don't want to waste your time or mine. But if you're interested, then consider what I'm saying. Sit down, hold still, watch them and come and go and come and go and come as much as you can. Ask questions. Yes.
Beyond bowing. I guess I'm feeling a little disturbed at the moment by this idea of probability of enlightenment, and how is attaining enlightenment an issue of probability?
I don't know if I'm generating that situation. I'm just doing it because I'm just talking in relative truth, like we're all living in the illusion. So I'm just using the illusion to chuck and jive about. There is no probability. Nothing happens. Everything is empty of its occurrence. Everything is empty of other. The fundamental understanding is empty. Okay, it's emptiness, shunyata. That's a standard teaching. I didn't invent it. Okay. So, but it's still a concept. And so then you have to go further. Everything is empty of emptiness. You have to, it has to keep coming apart. So there is the polarity is completely gone. Yet the whole thing comes rushing back. It's just a relative way of talking about it that completely confounds the consciousness that is wrapped up as a self who thinks there's something right, something wrong, or thinks that there is a right location or a wrong location. Any kind of attachment to right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. That's why it's so damn difficult, because we just like Sokuzan's questions about, well, if there's no, I can't paraphrase you, but if there's no right or wrong, then what was how did you phrase that?
Why poke in that area?
Why should I poke you? So that you can see that. So that you can see so it will help you see that, but it's not going to happen if you don't trust or give some kind of confidence or give the benefit of the doubt to the teacher, because it's going to not feel comfortable. I know I have students that are very upset with me on occasion. And I've been very upset with Trungpa. When I first met him, was just enraged at him that he could see so clearly and I couldn't. He could write some of the things that the talks that he gave and so on. It's just like this felt like he could see my insanity. And could he? Yeah, he could. He could, and he helped me with it. Yes, sir.
Bowing, is the teacher actually poking us?
I don't know if there's much of an intention there. The teaching person, the way I understand it, functioning as a Dharma teacher, just functions relative. If you show up, then the teacher shows up. You show up as a student, the teacher shows up as a teacher. If the student area starts to come apart, then you, as a teacher, you probably stop teaching. You just listen to them. That can happen with someone who is a fully ordained monk. When they stop receiving. It's not about you or anyone else coming to me and try to reassure me that you're still my student. I don't need your reassurance. You follow me a little bit? You do? Oh. More about it if you haven't.
Sure, Bowing, the image that shows up for me, and curious if this is anything in the ballpark, is like the teacher fires blanks and we just say we got shot, but you didn't actually do anything. Maybe
If that's helpful to you. The teacher doesn't do much. The teacher is on receive. Not production is only happens if you or anyone else comes and I'm interacting with you in some way, and I have to be a little bit generic about it. And you say something and I say something, you say something and then I say something, and suddenly you get offended somehow, something I have said to you, and it triggers some kind of protectiveness, and you come back and go after me. I lose. I will leave. I'll just disappear. I will not fight with you. Unless that dynamic is happening in such a way that I see that you do have an understanding. You are on receive. It's just that your own dependent origination is arising. Your own karma is arising in the form of a raised fist. Then I might stay and take a swipe at you. But it's very, very conditional and very situational, and no one's over here thinking about anything. Some people, I'm just I don't know, it might be 3 of them. I'm just a sweetheart to everybody all the time. Haven't you noticed? You know who you are. You get nothing but sweetheart kisses and total affection, everything from, and the rest of you get too close to me, it starts to get hot under the collar. Wouldn't you say? And even if I am endeavoring to be supportive and as a general idea, kind and loving and supportive and so on, you can still feel quite paranoid around me because I'm looking at you. I'm looking at your confusion, and my hands are tied. I have no hands. That's why they're tied. There are no hands. There isn't anything. There's just this. Go ahead.
Sort of knowing if Trump or Rinpoche or Koban were to walk through the door, would they be
Tell them to get out with my agenda. But they wouldn't leave because they never left here. They can't leave here. They can't leave this. Not separate. You're not separate from me. I'm not separate from them. None of you are separate from the Buddha. You may think you are. You may feel like you are. And it's painful, it's difficult to to feel estranged and separate from something you look up to and admire and see the truth in what the Buddha said, or what any great teacher said. We see it and we think, how can I realize that? How can I understand that? Well, it's very difficult when you're told that you are that, but you are what you're looking for. And you may have to go through a whole trajectory of thinking and unraveling and study the Madhyamaka, study Yogacara. You may have to go through a lot of processes like that, studying all of those. That's why they're available. That's why I promote that, because I know that how necessary it was for me to go through those kinds of studies and not necessarily understand, but study them anyway.
Are you able to be poked anymore?
You're poking me all the time, asshole. It's interesting that for me to say that and see who's smiling and who's not. Why isn't that funny to you? It's such a familiar mudra. Yeah, I can be poked, but usually it's some kind of situation somewhere. It's not particularly anyone here. A little bit. Everything is a teacher. If you're a student, then you're a student, then everything is showing you what this is. There any questions out there in Zoomville?
Navi bowing.
Lee, go ahead.
What makes the things that appear in the consciousness illusory? Bowing.
I'm not sure if this is going to be helpful or not, but just the illusion itself that this is separate from that which is arising in. To think that that which arises is a separate thing from that which is perceiving it or apprehending it or watching it or hearing it, smelling it, tasting it. So it looks like there's an otherness to it, like a thought. If you have a thought of a pumpkin, I'm thinking of pumpkins, and so I said the word pumpkin. Everyone has some version. You might just see the word pumpkin, and you might hear it. It might take you to a time when you're making a pie or something, or any kind of little thing can be triggered, but just by that statement. So it's just an astonishing illusion that it responds to everything. And I sometimes say it that way. If I say a word, then I'm creating that. To say I am creating that, and all of our minds are our consciousness. That you can do the same thing. You can come back and say, no, it's not a pumpkin. No, it's something else. You could name another object or something. Take it in a totally different direction. It's consciousness is so sensitive to everything. But it's an illusion because you cannot find any anchor anywhere. The whole thing is like that. It's just the more you go into it, and the more you look, the more you can't find any reference point there. And if you do find a reference point, it seems to be in the area of the part of consciousness that ties up into a self and projects onto other. It's over there and it's good. It's over there and it's bad. It's over there and it doesn't make any difference. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Again, to reify, support, and establish or give nutrition to that part of consciousness that is identified with the human form that thinks there is someone. More, Navi.
Navi bowing. So is that also the nature of things being impermanent that makes them illusory?
Yes.
Bowing.
Yes, anything that shows up is going away. This might not go away for a long time, but it's insubstantial. Thoughts are insubstantial, they go away. A piece of granite is eventually going to go away. An oak tree may live 300 years, but eventually it will die and rot. So that is an aspect of it. The illusion of time. Very powerful. Something shows up. We are as human forms. We show up and we're here for 70 years, 80 years or something, whatever it may be. And then everything just comes apart. And we die. But what actually dies, what does die? That's what's important to find out yourself. So it's not about a belief in something or some kind of transcendent realm of heaven or something. Find out what it is yourself so you know what it is. Chisho,
Thank you.
you're welcome, Naveed.
Ishabhawing, the reference point of the body seems so strong. Like, for example, during sitting practice, the breath coming in and out.
It does.
Uh, does that ever soften, or what do we do to? It seems impossible to see through that.
That's because, let me say it this way, and I may be close to what you're asking about, and I may be way off. So you can bring me back so that I can respond to what you want to know rather than what I think you want to know. It's easy for me to misunderstand. But the way this looks, and that I'm responding in this way, is that our idea of the body is so powerful that we believe we are somebody. I mean, I'm here, I can clap my hands. I can move my hand this way or that. Nobody's telling me that I can't do this. So the illusion of control is so powerful. I can do this, I can do that. But the fundamental situation that the fingers, you did not make this finger. You can't take this finger away and still have a hand. It'll be a hand, but it'll be damaged. So this is the belief that this is a body-mind complex is so powerful that that's me. There's an identity here. It's just overwhelming. It's so very, very convincing. And so it seems to be necessary to sit still, hold very still, and realize this is what Dogen was talking about. Drop off body and mind. He didn't say get rid of it. He just said see that the attachment to the body is something. You don't have to get rid of the body. Just see that this is unreal. And that has to do with consciousness, awareness, rather than any kind of thinking process of a conclusion of reality or unreality based on relative truth. Go ahead, sir.
Ishabhawing, so how does the attachment to the body show up when we observe, just sit and observe?
It won't show up. It won't show up. The reason it doesn't show up is because we ignore it. That's a powerful function of ignorance of the three poisons. That's the number one donor to ignorance or to samsara is ignoring. But if you see it suddenly, and it's so threatening to ego because ego is identified with the body, and you begin to realize how completely vulnerable you are, you could die. You're just going to die any moment. But when you realize your true nature, you realize what consciousness is. You don't care whether this lives or not. This doesn't mean you aren't going to feed yourself or take care of yourself or change your own diapers. Of course, you're going to take care of yourself. But what you will understand is that you are not limited to this. You're not limited to the body. Sure, the body's here. I can pick this up. I can put it down and wave my hands. I can wear robes. But I'm not just a body. I'm everyone's body. Not some kind of fancy woo-woo feeling of being a transcendent, whatchamacallit, but that you're not separate from it. You're not separate from the woodwork or your consciousness only. If you have any identity at all, you're just everywhere. You're everywhere. You're just smeared over everything. It's very, very much like peanut butter. Just giant, huge, immeasurable piece of bread everywhere. It's just everywhere. Everywhere you look, you don't see anything but just the identity that you've realized, which is not just an old man sitting on a platform, or not, it's just everywhere. There's no location to it anymore. And there's no right, there's no wrong. All of that just comes apart. Yet you're in a world where you're talking to people who are confused about their mind and about their identity and are at war with each other and with themselves. Conflicting emotions about the nature of what this is will cause an internal warfare that you or I or anyone will blame on others. I spent a lot of time doing this with people I was in very close relationship with, commonly called wives. It was very hard. Probably harder for them than for me because I was so confused.
Ishabhawing, so how do we work with that ignorance of the attachment to the body. Bowing.
Just very good, a good question. And just observe it. Just notice that you have the identity of the body, and you don't have to get rid of it. It's not about going without food, or it's not about looking like you're impoverished, or being self-effacing, or something. And it might go the other way, the other direction, and about being and I'm gonna go to an extreme here so you can see what I'm saying. Maybe this will help you. You could be a drag queen. It doesn't matter what you do, please. It does not matter. What does, if there's some kind of mattering happening, then it's about see who you are. It's unlikely you would go that direction, but you could. You could also, and this has been taught down through the centuries. We have, I think it was somebody would have to remind me of which one it was. The Marpa, no, Talopa, or was it Talopa or Naropa that lived in houses of prostitution and just waited on people hand and foot. Does anyone remember those stories? Probably Sokuzan would. He studied a lot of that. He might be able to. But there's no right or wrong. There's no, oh, you have to do it this way. You have to be a monk. You have to. So it's so complicated in that area. And the attachment to the body, sometimes in order to see that, you may have to work with the body in a way because of what happens 10 lifetimes ago. When I say 10 lifetimes, I don't mean that your consciousness actually went from one lifetime to the next. It is not linear. It's beyond the whole idea of past and future and space and time. It's beyond that. It's consciousness. And you are that. And it doesn't matter if this whole world completely blows up. Does it matter? Yes, as long as you're here, let's try to keep it from doing that. Let's see if we can take care of it in some way. You might call that fixing on some level. Maybe that's what it is. So I can respond to another question, or we can call it a night. Sure.
Milka Bowing, what's available to us when we die?
I think it's just depends on what you've been working with when you're alive. If you're constantly shutting down and pushing away and trying to come to conclusions and fighting with your world and fighting with others and blaming others for how you feel, even if they did it to you, then that's likely to be what's going to show up when the body comes apart. More of that. Go ahead, sir.
Milka Bowing.
I said likely. I didn't say it. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, even though I feel like I've been doing as well as I can for the last 80-some years, I could end up in hell. The only thing I commented on that is, okay, if that's what's next, then I'm ready. When I say I'm ready, doesn't mean I'm some kind of a brave person. It just means I know what I see dependent origination everywhere. It's not a conclusion. I'm not concluding anything. I just know that whatever needs to happen next, I welcome it. I welcome it. Go ahead.
Milka Bowing, can we miss our death? You often say, don't miss your life.
Yes, you can miss your death. More.
What is it in life is there anything in life that will
There is no life in
miss?
death. That's missing. That's missing it. You have to see it. You have to see that nothing dies. Things that come and go. Who you actually are can't die, can't. Because it never showed up. And why didn't it show up? Because it's just the very nature of consciousness. Things come and go in consciousness, but consciousness doesn't do anything.
Milka Bowing, is the illusion of life available in death?
Sure. That good? I mean, does that cheer you up a little bit? Can you ask the question the other way around? Can you paraphrase what you said and say it backwards?
I can't remember.
Interesting. Sokuzan, can you take what he said and say it backwards? I mean, Sokuzan. I'm always calling Sokuzan, and that's very confusing. Not to them, confusing to me. I've had to try to find a way to name, I tried to go from Japanese names to Chinese names and one Tibetan name, and I'm trying to make them not sound, but it's like it's getting worse. It's like everybody's name sounds like, you know, I have to think about like Yin Long is not Shan Jian, right? I think that those. If you disagree with me, I might get a little confused. So, and then there's Shan Yu, of course, I can tell because has his coffee cup in front of his face, which makes him more recognizable. Is there a final flash in the pan here, or should we just call it an evening?
Jishin bowing.
Good, Jishi.
What does it mean to be ready for that which is coming? Bowing.
To see that nothing happens, to see that whatever happens is an illusion. That doesn't mean it's a conclusion that's an illusion, even though that rhymes. But you don't conclude anything. You don't need to conclude anything if you see what it is. The whole idea of exclusion and conclusion, all those relativities just come apart. Everything falls apart. As Kobun said when he translated the Heart Sutra mantra, I think it looks like, I don't know, he didn't tell me this, but it looks like he's describing his own awakening. Falling apart, falling apart, falling apart, nothing to do, everything all at once. Past and future collapsed into what? This. And is there this? I don't know. Find out. Thank you so much.
This penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Ji Ho San Shi 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 So Bu San Mo Go San Mo Go. The declarations, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.